when I was little, I didn't have a house where it was like gourmet stuff going on at all. Canned green beans, SpaghettiOs. I think, yeah, I grew up in that. And maybe part of where I'm at right now is always like, can I fix that myself? So I didn't have the most gourmet lifestyle as a kid, that's for sure. Which is why I think I reached for the stars at what I'm doing now. I- my uncle was the best story of all for my career because he was the one that like really sparked, there's a difference between what you're eating today and then what's going to happen on Thanksgiving when my uncle showed us. Because that was it. It was like, that was the day. I don't think I realized it until maybe I got in my teens and I was an athlete. So I was extremely hungry all the time. And when my uncle would show up for Thanksgiving and everything just got elevated, and he was like, try this, spoon in the mouth, try that. Um, he was the one that, he lit that fire for me for sure. And I was fortunate enough to pay attention to him. And then when I was in my teens, my late teens, I got to work for him, which was even more interesting. My parents were divorced, and so there was weekends where I had to go stay somewhere, and if you stay with your uncle, you're gonna be in that restaurant. So it was cool to be young and earning a couple bucks for peeling potatoes, and then really didn't think about it. And as I grew, I'm like, wow, I'm really learning a lot, and then started doing different things with him. And to this day, there's signature items that are on my menus because there's such a I get chills talking about it. Um, just the way he didn't teach me. He just knew I was listening, you know. And so now I pull things from my past. Sometimes I was just talking to one of my chefs the other day because we were trying to think of a dressing for this salad, and I hadn't thought about it in 20 years probably. And there was this house dressing that my uncle made that was really unique. And I'd never really thought about it till we had this conversation the other day, and I remembered all the stuff he put in it. And he's like, "Wow, I don't think they make that crap anymore." There was like this seasoning that they don't even make, and I was like, "Oh, I really hadn't thought of that. Wow, it'd be cool if we recreate that because we have my mom's Italian dressing, my uncle's burger, and now we might have my uncle's dressing too." So, yeah, it's cool that that's always been a part of my cooking career. I was lucky enough to be a young chef with a restaurant called Hyde Park. It's a steakhouse, same one we have in Sarasota. As a matter of fact, when they moved into town, I was like, "Is that the same place I worked for in Cleveland?" I worked for them for 7 years, and when I started working in that kitchen, I worked with the guy who I'll always remember and love as, like, one of my uncle was like a guru, but this guy really taught me, and his name was Ron Driscoll, and he was Jamaican. He worked for, like, Jamaican Customs when he lived in Jamaica, and then in the evenings, he cooked at country clubs and stuff in Jamaica, so he was really well-versed. Uniform had to be sharp, and, I mean, he really trained a lot of us, but when I was young, he was the one who gave me the opportunity to work on a hotline where this restaurant was doing, 300 people, steaks, dining rooms just filled with money. I mean, this was a steakhouse era when it was at its best. And he kept throwing me in there. Some nights I got burned, and he was like, at least you tried. And you started to work for like an hour, and then you go through a rush, and then it's like, all right, get out of there. You're still not really good. And I remembered the night where I finally got to work the broiler, which was, you got to figure you're cooking 250 steaks for 250 people or more, all different cuts of meat on this broiler that's like 800 degrees. Nobody sent a steak back then. I mean, that means everybody had like mine's maroon and I like mine, purple and super red and rare. And that night that happened, it was over. And I remember the other cook's name. His name was Todd. He's like, damn. He said, damn, nobody's done that in a long time, as we call him no hitter.
Yeah.
And I was like, it's not over yet. There's like two tables out. He's like, well, you're done. So you could go. And then I remember talking to Ron. And Ron was like, you did it, you know?
Mhm.
Yeah, it choked me up because that was definitely it. And I was like, I remember going home that night, probably had way too many beers. Um,
But to this day, I just remember that. Yeah, it's touchy. Yeah.
The creativity part of recipes, just I think it's, I mean, that's really I think where the heart. People always talk about art, cooking's such an art. I was like, how? Not really. So our plate presentations are artistic. Um, you know, maybe our flow on the line is artistic because we're like little ballet dancers.
Yeah.
There's that. But I think where it really comes in is, like Monet has to figure out what colors he's going to use. Um, we get to a point where you're just constantly looking for signs that inspire you, like anything else. But I look at weird stuff, so I'll like walk through the crappy candy aisle at a grocery store that's got, Twinkies and O. Henry bars and all that stuff. And that's kind of where I'm like, I'm gonna make something similar to that, or like a Twix bar, which actually hit not too long ago. I made Twix a mock Twix dessert, but I like seeing things and like challenging myself to make a different version of it. So that's always a unique kind of art form, I think, there. But also, the constant studying of the foundations of cooking was very important. Knowing the mother sauces, knowing like all these spices and stuff. But that's why I think seasoned chefs that are a little bit older tend to have uh, more power in the kitchen because they really have tasted that. It's a palate thing too. I mean, all these young chefs can read books, and do that and say they know it, but you know, when you get to be a certain age, if you've actually eaten all that stuff, and you're like, yeah, well, I've had star anise and orange juice together, and that's amazing. And you start putting these formulas together, and they're just subconsciously in your head. And when I need to create this art, now you have a formula. So it's kind of cool because I think a good way to compare it is like if you do get a painter, here's a brush sheet, here's three colors, knock yourself out. That's kind of how I am now. It's like I got this black plate and I'm going to do something with, some American red snapper tonight. And I walk through and look in the cooler and say, that'll work, that'll work, that'll work. And then you just put it together. And you get to a point where you know it's going to work. It's you need somebody to confirm it with. So, of course, there's always, "Oh, this shit tastes really good." And then you go, "Hey, try this for me." And they're like, "Wow, it's really good." Yeah, you knew it was good. But you still have duds, you still have duds. And that's also part of being a good artist is failing a lot. I think I fail a lot making stuff. I don't share that one as much, but I don't say, here, try this. I know it sucks, but and then you have camaraderie in your kitchen too, because it's not you can't be successful by yourself. I need I need Chef Doug to say, yeah, it needs a little salt, needs a little spice, or Chef Page to say, oh, that's too sweet. And that's where the creativity and the art becomes it's not just art for me. It's just collaborative in a kitchen, and that's what we're always doing, and that's kind of what life is collaborating. And the reason I'm sitting here is because we collaborate and we're friends and we trust our judgment, and that's how you become a great chef. I mean, being a good chef is probably 10% cooking. The rest is really your personality, being a psychiatrist, an electrician, a plumber. I mean, it's like 10% cooking and the rest is just life sucks. But that's part of I think the art side and how you get creative is you just find things that inspire. And if you don't, that's why chefs like to go out to eat all over the place. And one of the best compliments is to go somewhere and have somebody's food and then try to recreate it. I had somebody just recently tell me they ran some beignets on their menti at a restaurant, and it's a big thing in Indigenous.
Yeah.
And I was like, "What do you mean you've ran it at your restaurant?" Yeah, it's like, dude, we were so inspired by yours. No, we tried playing around. We did it a little bit different. We used this pomegranate molasses, and it was just different. And I'm like, that's awesome. And you don't say you're a dig. Well, yeah, steal my recipe. It's a compliment. And a lot of people, that's one thing you get to where you're just like, They didn't steal your stuff. They complimented you. I always loved fishing, but it was freshwater. So I was lucky enough to have this kid who worked in the kitchen. Great. He's a great captain now, actually. His name Danny Stasny. And we both worked at the Hillview Grill with my first job here. And so the guy who owned it was great. He let me have control of the menu and all that. And we had a great time. And then Danny was a big fisherman. So he always turned me on to go on fishing. And we were getting up in the mornings and going fishing at 5 and then coming back and cooking. But see, I'm from Cleveland. So, all the fishing I was learning species. But I was also a very curious chef. So I wanted to eat everything that we caught. Even if Danny said, nah, bro, don't eat that. I'm like, have you eaten it? He goes, no. I was like, well, why haven't you tried it? Because I know it's terrible. I'm like, but you haven't tried it. So, I ate ladyfish. I ate lizard fish. I ate. Actually, the first time I ate a sheep's head, I was like, you guys should all be eating this. He's like, we do. It's like, that's the one that's okay. So I think I went through all that stuff. And then I have the most fascinating story still when I had lionfish because I didn't really understand it until this full lionfish story came to my attention, which I dove in with 110% and said, hey, we have a invasive species problem, and I didn't know I had the opportunity to help get rid of it or try to control it, so to speak. And I didn't know enough about it. All I knew from, like I said, Cleveland. So lionfish was a pretty fish in the fish tank. And so when I heard about it, I did more research on it to try to find out about it and, how it's venomous, it's not poison, and learn the difference there. And the barbs can hurt you, but they're not going to kill you. So I got cast all these little different levels that I had no idea knowing. And then I was like, well, it can't taste very good. I mean, it looks beautiful. It's deadly. I'm like, this is interesting. So I finally, instead of me going somewhere and having someone prepare it for me, somebody brought some and I had to just do it on my own. So I was scared shitless first time with it. I'm wearing like a baseball mitt, a hockey glove, and I'm like trying to hold the fish on the table. And I'm like, uh, anyway, got through it, got the meat. When I cut into it and I filleted it, I was like, wow, this is like the whitest. It's like black. It's white and beautiful. And you hold it up to the light and you can see a rainbow in it. It's translucent. It's just the meat's just fantastic. And then I was like, well, try everything raw, which I do. So a lot of fish, I'll just take a little slice. And I was like, wow, so it really has that beautiful ocean fish clean flavor. And then, okay, we waited like 20 minutes in case I passed out or something.
Yes.
And, but I had read, so I knew that was going to happen. And then I cooked it and I just was like, this is probably one of the best fish I ever ate. And now, not only have I just taken this adventure to try it, now there's a message behind this. And I was like, all right, so we're going to have to keep lionfish going. And that was probably the biggest deal. I did not catch that lionfish, but it was a friend of mine who spears them. And so, to go through, I don't know, being scared of something and then eating it and like cooking it yourself. It was like being out in the wild, but I wasn't. I was in this kitchen, but somebody gave me some animal from the wild and said, here, you should try these. And then just left me hanging. Like didn't really, he knew I knew about it and read about it and I just learned. But that was probably one of the most, I was hesitant and I was a little bit freaked out by it at first, but now it's hard to even get a hold of those things. That lionfish movement sparked a huge interest in a lot more other invasives and definitely dove into that, got involved with a lot of that. The one thing I learned over the years is that we do have a great power and a job as a chef to educate, you know. I never really thought of it before, but as my careers kept going on, you get people come in and say, hey, I never heard of barrelfish. I've never heard of kampachi. I never heard. So, you take all the sustainability efforts and you realize that you're actually educating a community about making better choices. And that's what inspired me to hold, sustainable seafood dinners for a whole city. And those are the things that we were able to teach and continue to teach, and what I plan on teaching even more in my next project.
I've gotten to the point where, you know, you don't know what's next, but what's usually next is even more exciting. The opportunity to go to Greece and visit 2 more fish farms and review them.
Yeah, I mean, where I'm at in my career, you don't get that very often, and to have people have confidence in you to fly you halfway around the world. They really want to know your thoughts on a product that's developing. And then they want to know if you're going to be able to take that knowledge that they were with you on and bring it back to the United States or wherever else you're going to spread it. Um, yeah, I mean, I feel like I'm pretty humble about it, but man, it's like, that's pretty sweet. Going to Costa Rica and Panama and swimming with the fish at the Campeche farm for Forever Oceans. I thought they were kind of joking from day one that you're gonna go swim in the past. I was like, yeah, you're gonna go swim in the pan too, right? Uh, when we got there, we went to the hatchery and met with the scientists, and we really, me and the team that go on these trips, we really get involved with the behind the scenes of how the hatchery started and where the fish are going and how the process is done. But we got to the point where they were like, yeah, well, you'll eventually be able to swim with them and really see what they're like in the water and all that. And I was like, okay. And then we did. And then they were jumping into the pen and I had snorkel and fins and I went. So you think about,
Yeah, you cook the fish. That's great. I fish all the time and I like that, but I've never like just gone and swam with the fish. Like if I went to a reef and just swam with them. And this was a little different. I mean, you got to see it, touch it, feel it, taste it, do the whole thing. And that's getting to be that whole new category. I said, it's like, I feel like now my education of aquaculture has become superior to what I ever had before. Farm fish, we're all so uneducated on it and how important it is to us right now. And, the oceans, you got anybody out there say, we used to go catch grouper on this grouper spot, this grouper hole. We'd go all the time, just set our numbers, boom, out there. We drop line and pull up grouper and then we're gone. People are going to those spots and there's no fish there, and then the ocean pollution that we've read and these red tides and stuff. So, between chicken, fish, and beef, the CO2 and the carbon output, all that is just so terrible compared to what fish farms are doing. I mean, the education, like I said, goes so deep, and it really even gets into the nutrients these fish eat now. It's not just fish feed that they just put these crappy food things together, these little pellets that in the 80s, people are like, oh my God, you're feeding orange dye to all these fish. Now it's nutrients and it's things that, they do research on, bi-crops, alfalfa, and all these different crops that they can utilize that are really healthy for fish. And, I actually ate that stuff at the last place I went to. I was like, it's good. Well, no, it wasn't good. But I ate it and I get it. Wasn't like it was like Soylent Green or something from the future. But there's so much to learn. And these opportunities I have coming up to go with this Fed by Blue Team and BioMars, the nutrient company, and really do that. I mean, that's quite a feather in my hat that I never realize it. I'll realize it when I'm sitting on that Dreamliner in first class. I will remember that, but it's special. I think all those trips I take, the way home is always touching. Because it's like, whether I was like in Monterey working for the Seafood Watch program or whatever, and this is what touches me a lot too, because you don't realize how good you just had it on a trip like that until you're on the plane, on your way home, and you're just like scrolling through pictures and you're like, man, I was just on the cliffs in Monterey, and you're looking at it and you're like, man, I'm lucky. I'm lucky that I have an opportunity to share. And that's cooking, sharing. I mean, there's nothing better than hanging out with people and eating, right? I mean, if you came to my house, we're going to stand in the kitchen. I don't really need to go sit in the TV room. We're going to stand in the kitchen because we're, sipping on wine and we're cooking. And, that's to me, that's community, that's relationships. That's how I meet all my friends. That's how I fell in love with you guys. And food expresses myself. And when I go to a table and say, you know, hey, I just wanted to check on you, and you never met them before, and you could tell it's like, I'm going to be friends with them, you know? And it's, my wife and I joke because it's restaurant friends, but there's so many relationships that have started from it. You know, people I hang out with on the weekend or people that I met. Sometimes I have to think back. Like, how the fuck did I meet you? Yeah. You know, and you're like, oh, well, we came to your restaurant when you first opened, and then we kept coming back, and then we'd see you at Whole Foods, and then I run into you at Trader Joe's, and then you go to my husband's office and he fixes your leg, and then, you know, and the next thing you know, it's like you're friends, and that encompasses everything I'm talking about. You know, it's education, it's community, and then you meet people and you share with people, and you like it or you don't. That's cooking. I mean, it's, if you don't like it, get out. You know, as I said, chefs are a different species, and I think restaurant people in general are a different species. You know, you have a hard time explaining your normal civilian life to a restaurant person if you haven't been in a restaurant, and they're just like, you don't understand. Sincerely have my true blue vibes for starters. Okay, I must say that. You know, this is special to me, and I think this community, since COVID, just kind of disassembled, and I'm starting to see it come back. I really am. And I think this is going to be a big part of it. I think it's brilliant, and I want to see more of it, and I want to keep doing everything I can to help this community be strong. And I really want it to cool down because it's really hot here. And hopefully it'll cool down soon and we can all get back to our normal lives, because I think a lot of people are actually getting angrier every time it's hotter. So keep doing this and, you know, giving out good vibes all the time. And, you know, I think it's special that we can, like, just sharing stuff like this. I don't see it enough. Usually people want to talk to me, and it's not about me. It's about the restaurant, and like, where'd you get the lights, and where did you get that chair? And, you know, do you guys have, what kind of wine do you guys have? And, you know, how about me? How about, let's talk about me. And that's really important, and I'm glad you're doing it. Thanks.
That note. Cut! Wait, what's the sign out? Yeah. Cut! I don't know it.
Dude, we did it. Oh no, you gotta go like this. And yeah, just scoot in a little bit more.
Ready?
Yeah.
Cut!